Structure of protein. Okay. Now, structure of protein, though the basic structure we had discussed yesterday also, that the basic units are amino acids, but those amino acids when combined together they form peptide chains, polypeptide chains. More than 100 amino acid units are known as proteins. Now, the structure of protein is studied at 4 levels. So 4 structures, level of structures you can say of protein are there as primary structure, secondary structure, tertiary structure and quaternary structure. Now the same protein which is formed, its structure can be studied at 4 different levels. So what we'll start with the primary structure. What is the primary structure for a protein? For a protein, the primary structure is that when amino acids combine with another amino acid, okay, then we had studied that the linkage formed between them is peptide linkage. Now we are not making the molecule of amino acid. We know that it has NH2 group and COOH group. NH2 of one combines with the COOH of another and peptide linkage is formed. So the primary structure of protein includes the formation of polypeptide chain. This is the primary structure. Now, the primary structure of protein is very important because even a change in single amino acid, suppose a chain is made for a polypeptide chain as primary structure having 100 amino acids, then even a change in single amino acid will change the type of protein. So the most important out of all structures is the primary structure, which is formed by the joining of amino acid molecules through peptide linkage to form polypeptide chain of various lengths. Okay, I told you that above 100 are there in a chain, then only it will be forming a protein. Below that it will not be a functional protein, but there are exceptions like insulin made up of 51 amino acids. Suppose in the name of protein is insulin when it is having 51 amino acids. Okay, now suppose out of those 51, even if one of the amino acid sequence is changed, because amino acids are 20, they are just changed, arranged in a specific manner to form a specific protein. Now even the sequence of any one of them is changed, then also the type of protein will be changed. Okay, so this is about the primary structure of proteins. Now after primary structure is formed, suppose a chain is formed. Okay, now the chain of protein, if we have yesterday written one protein C, one functional group H, one side COOH and one side NH2. Okay, then it was lysine and CH2 whole 4 NH2. This was basic type of amino acid because 2 groups are there. So this part is actually known as R part. This is the alkyl chain part. It may be substituted, it may be simple, and the remaining part is the ionic part because this will be formed as positive NH3 and CO negative. So this is zeta ionic form and this is amphoteric in nature. So this part is the ionic part, this is the R part or alkyl part you can say. Now when a primary structure is formed, now the folding of this structure will take place. Definitely this is when primary structure, and we are saying that it is a protein. That means it should have more than 100 amino acids joined together to form a peptide chain. Now this is primary structure. Now in this primary structure, this chain we have made in the form of a line, but actually it is made up of functional groups. COO negative is there. In some amino acid unit, NH3 group be coming down. So when they are folded, okay, the same chain is folded, then what will happen? This is folded in this manner, this is folded in this manner. This particular long chain is folding in itself. So what will happen? Functional groups will come in front of each other. Maybe NH3 coming this. So what will happen? They will form hydrogen bonds. Okay. Some other functional group, suppose COOH is coming, COO negative. So H bonding and disulfide bonds, because protein molecule along with having nitrogen, and this group also contains sulfur in the complete molecule. Sulfur is also present in protein molecule. So bond between sulfur and sulfur is formed, that is known as disulfide bond. So whenever this primary structure is folded back, and when they are folding back, the bonds between them which are formed are hydrogen bonds and disulfide bonds. So when such bonds are formed, whenever these type of bonding is taking place, R group is not involved. R group remains out of this joining which is taking place. So the secondary structure of the protein results when the functional groups which are present in the protein chain are making bonds with each other, and this bonding is making the structure compact. Otherwise the chain is straight, but because of the folding, these type of bonds are formed. The structure is becoming folded, also strong. But in the secondary structure, R groups are not involved in bonding. Now this folding may take place in two ways. One way is this, which I have shown you, that they are folding. Suppose a big piece of cloth is there and you have to fold it. What we do, we form layers of the cloth. We just fold it like this. Okay, so that means what we are doing, we are making layers of the cloth one over the other. The piece is very big, but we are folding it in the manner that they are coming overlapping each other. So one way is this, that we are folding the chain overlapped on each other, stacked. Stacking is made. This structure is known as beta pleated sheet structure. Okay, so one way of folding to form secondary structure is that they are folded in the form of pleated sheet structure. Okay, another way of folding of this is forming a helix. When it is forming a helix, then the loop of the helix is resulting in the bond formation. Okay, means the functional groups which are coming in front of each other, they are making the bonds. So this is either they will form alpha helical structure or beta plated sheet structure. Okay, so secondary structure of protein is formed by the folding of the protein peptide chain to form by forming hydrogen bonds or disulfide bonds to give two type of structures, either beta pleated sheet structure or alpha helix structure. Okay, this is about secondary structure of protein. Clear? Now after primary, then secondary, now we come to the tertiary structure. Now already the chain which is either beta pleated or it is in the form of helix, that particular chain is now going to acquire tertiary structure. Now these two secondary structure, that means we can write either will be beta pleated or it will be alpha helix. Then these two type of structures will undergo further folding. Okay, when further folding of these structures will take place, then they will give rise to tertiary structure of protein. Tertiary structure. Now in tertiary structure, when further folding is taking place, then this will give the final shape of protein. Okay, final shape of protein, that is three-dimensional shape of protein will come into existence. Whatever is its appearance from outside, it may be fibrous or it may be globular. That means the classification which we have studied on the basis of shape was actually we were talking about the tertiary structure of protein, that either it will be fibrous or it will be globular in the form of a globule in shape. So that is 3D shape of protein formed by further folding. Now when further folding will take place, then what will happen? The R groups which were not involved in the bond formation, because functional groups have already formed bond when they were making secondary structure. Now further folding is taking place and they are folding and they have to remain in that form for means in a stable form. The chain is folded but not bonded to each other, then it will not be a stable structure. So the tertiary structure is formed by folding and by making bonds between R of one part to the R of other part. Means the same chain when folded. So now in the secondary structure, the R groups have not participated in bond formation, but in the tertiary structure, now these R groups will also participate in bond formation. That means they will come closer, more closer. Now when they are coming closer, the types of bond which are possible are, one is if this R group is pure R group, not having any functional group, then there will be London forces or dispersion forces will be there between these two groups. Okay, if they have some polarity, then it will be a dipole-dipole interaction. Okay, if they have some ionic group, then it may have ionic attraction. And if there is some polar group, as we have seen in that amino acid NH2 group was present, then H bonding can also be formed between these R groups which are present. Okay, so the tertiary structure results in the three-dimensional final shape of a protein resulting from bond formation between the R groups present in the chain of the peptide by further folding to give either fibrous or globular shape. And type of forces which can be present are any of these or more than one type also. Okay, so this is tertiary structure. So tertiary structure is either globular or it may be fibrous. Okay. Now quaternary structure. A quaternary structure of protein is formed. Now no further folding is taking place. It is the final structure which can be formed for a protein molecule. Quaternary structure is present in only those proteins which have more than one unit, means subunits are there. That means one unit folding is this and another unit is also, because they too can work in association with each other. Individually they are not complete unit, but they are forming as subunits. So two subunits are present. So this actually is known as quaternary structure. One structure is complete in itself, but it requires the help of other unit also to complete its function. So when two subunits are there, so when they are associated to each other, this is known as quaternary structure of protein. Okay, so this is all about the structure of protein at 4 levels: primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary. Okay, now the last topic in proteins is denaturation of proteins. Now, what is denaturation of proteins? For studying that, we first know that proteins are actually known as native proteins. So means a original protein having its biological activity, okay, means whatever biological activity it is performing in the body and its natural three-dimensional structure. A protein with its natural three-dimensional structure, that means a structure at all four levels and having its natural biological activity is known as native protein. That means all proteins which occur in the biological system are actually native proteins. Simply by calling it as protein, we are calling it as native protein. Now, whenever these native proteins are subjected to changes in temperature or pH, two things. If any change, because proteins are very specific, they work or they function at a specific temperature and at a specific pH. So when they are subjected to change in temperature or pH, any of the two things, then their normal biological activity is stopped. It may stop, it may change. Okay, so is affected. When biological activity is affected and also their three-dimensional structure is destroyed, then if any of the two things, either the biological activity is destroyed or three-dimensional structure is destroyed, then such is known as, this phenomenon is known as denaturation of protein. Okay, it's not necessary that its structure is getting destroyed, so biological activity should also get destroyed, but both things may happen, any one thing may happen, then in that case it will be known as denaturation of protein. The simple example which we observe is that when you change the pH of milk, then it gets coagulated to form water separates and the protein part and the fat part also separates. Okay, so this is example of denaturation. Boiling of an egg is also example of denaturation, because when egg is boiled, the liquid part, the protein part is converting into solid part, and denaturation process is irreversible process. In maximum cases it is irreversible. Once the change has taken place, it cannot be reverted back by converting back to the original condition of temperature and pH. They will not be reverting back. Okay, now whenever we are saying that three-dimensional structure of protein is destroyed, always remember that when protein is causing denaturation, then its tertiary structure, secondary structure can be destroyed, because it is formed on the basis of bond formations, hydrogen bond, dipole-dipole interactions, disulfide bonds, that can be destroyed, but primary structure of protein can never be destroyed. It will remain. Once it is formed, it will remain as it is, because if primary structure is destroyed, that means the protein itself has changed. So what is changing is actually in three-dimensional structure is only the bonds are getting broken. That is why the egg which was liquid is converting into solid mass, because now the protein part is occupying more space, which was occupying less space. It is now spreading in the more area, hence it is converted into solid part. Okay, so primary structure of protein will never be destroyed. Clear? So this is all about proteins. Now the last part of this is nucleic acids. Those who study bio, they very well know about nucleic acids. Even those who are not bio students, they have studied about nucleic acids, some in class 10th also in biology. Okay, so just little chemistry part is added in it for studying it in this chapter, biomolecules. Again, nucleic acid is a biomolecule and also it is a macromolecule, large molecule. Molecules in the biological system are biomolecules and those which are very large are macromolecules. So it is nucleic acid. Now first thing, that where actually nucleic acid is present in the body and what actually is the function. Two things we will first know and then we will come to its structure. So when we talk about biological cell, now we are not talking about atom of chemistry. So biological cell, its nucleus. Now this is not the nucleus of chemistry atom. So when in biological cell nucleus is there, inside the nucleus there are chromosomes. Now these chromosomes which are present in the nucleus of biological cell, these chromosomes are actually made up of protein plus nucleic acids. The component of these chromosomes are protein and nucleic acid, and the function of these chromosomes, they actually act as hereditary vehicles, means they carry the genetic information from one generation to the next. The purpose is this. So actually protein part is not responsible for that. The major part which is responsible for carrying the genetic information is nucleic acid. So we can conclude that nucleic acids are actually the carriers of genetic information from one generation to next. This is the most important function of nucleic acid. One more important function of nucleic acid is protein synthesis, that whatever proteins are required to be synthesized. We discussed yesterday essential and non-essential amino acids. So those which are required in the body itself to be prepared are prepared with the help of nucleic acids itself. So two major important functions of nucleic acids are there. Now when we talk about nucleic acids, so we have two type of nucleic acids. One is DNA, in short deoxyribonucleic acid, and another is RNA, that is ribonucleic acid. Okay, these two are there. Now whether it is DNA or it is RNA, both of them have a basic structure, that they will have a sugar molecule. There are 3 subunits present in one nucleic acid, one sugar molecule, okay, and one base molecule. Base means a nitrogen containing compound is there. Another is a sugar molecule. The sugar molecule, what are these, we will discuss later. And the third component is phosphate or phosphoric acid molecule. Okay, either you call it phosphoric acid or phosphate molecule also you can say. Somewhere you will find phosphate written, somewhere phosphoric acid. Actually it is phosphoric acid, which from where H has been removed. So phosphate only is present. So these 3 things are part, sugar and base. These 2 units are known as nucleoside. If we talk about these 2 things, sugar and base, this is known as nucleoside, and all 3 are known as nucleotide. So as in protein we have studied, the basic unit of a protein is amino acid. The basic unit of carbohydrate is monosaccharide. Similarly, the basic unit which is repeated again and again in case of nucleic acid is nucleotide. So the basic unit, if it is asked, then you should know that nucleotide is the basic unit of nucleic acids, which undergo repetition to form long chain of nucleic acid, whether it is deoxyribonucleic acid or ribonucleic acid. Nucleoside is just to know. Nucleoside in itself is not a functional unit. Okay, but to know that sugar and base are known as nucleoside and the whole unit itself is known as nucleotide. Okay, now the type of linkage, as in case of carbohydrates we told that glycosidic linkage is present. In case of proteins we said that peptide linkage is present to combine two amino acid units. Similarly, in case of nucleic acid, one nucleotide is bonded to another nucleotide by through linkage through, suppose this is one nucleotide. Okay, this is phosphate molecule. So one nucleotide unit is bonded to another nucleotide unit through the bonding through a phosphate molecule. This bonding is known as phosphodiester linkage. I am not making the structure right now for nucleotide because it is not needed. Or whatever part is needed that we are discussing. Phosphodiester linkage. Okay. So this type of linkage, now you have to remember name of three linkages: glycosidic, peptide linkage and phosphodiester linkage in case of nucleic acid by through a phosphate molecule. Okay. Now one by one we will talk about the components which we have talked. We told that there is one sugar molecule, one nitrogenous base and third is the phosphoric acid or phosphate molecule to form the unit of nucleotide. Now it is deoxyribonucleic acid. Both these sugars are pentose sugar. Pentose sugar means having 5 members in the ring. One of the member is O. O is the part of ring actually. Yes. Now this is ribose sugar. The name of this sugar is ribose. It is a type of pentose sugar and the name of this is deoxy. Actually it is deoxy 2-deoxyribose. What does it mean? They both are similar to each other, only there is change if you see on this. Okay, that means this is carbon atom number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Total 5 carbon. But this 5th carbon is not part of chain. Oxygen is part of chain. Hence it is a pentose sugar. On the 2nd carbon it is deoxy without oxygen. So it is called deoxyribose sugar. This is ribose sugar because on 2nd carbon there is oxygen with OH present. So these are the sugars which are present in DNA and RNA. RNA and DNA are different from each other in terms of the sugars which are present. Okay. Then after sugar molecule, the second thing which we talked about, the second unit was nitrogenous base. So in case of nucleic acid, nitrogenous bases are of 4 types and at the time only one nitrogenous base will be present in one nucleotide. Those bases are actually adenine, guanine, cytosine and 4th one is thymine. Names you have to remember: adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. These are the 4 nitrogenous bases found in nucleic acid. One at a time will be present. Okay. that means wait. In RNA, again 4 sugars are present: adenine, guanine, cytosine, in place of thymine. In RNA, uracil is present. The name of fourth base in RNA is uracil instead of thymine. This is the difference. Okay. Now that means what? If I had made the structure that phosphate connected to sugar, okay, making base, making the backbone, and base is projected out. Base is projected out. So sugar is, suppose if this I have made DNA nucleotide. This is one unit. This is one nucleotide. So phosphate is going to remain every time same. Sugar is also going to remain same. If it is DNA, it will be deoxyribose sugar. But this base is going to change. Suppose if this base is adenine, so here I will write A. So phosphate, sugar, adenine. Another nucleotide unit can be phosphate, sugar, guanine. Like this nitrogenous base will be different in each nucleotide unit. Okay, so these are bases, and third component is phosphate molecule, which we have discussed. Now I had made sugar molecule. So in case of sugar, if you see, I had made that this is carbon atom number 1, 2, 3 and 4, and fifth one was projecting out, CH2OH. So base is attached to carbon atom number 1 always, and phosphate makes bond with carbon atom number 5. That means they are forming the backbone like this. Phosphate, this is sugar, this is phosphate. Okay. Then again after phosphate, again there will be sugar molecule. From sugar projecting out will be base. Then again next phosphate. So phosphate, sugar alternate are making the backbone of the chain of DNA, and base are projecting out from that chain. So it will go on like this. On one position of sugar, base; on fifth position, phosphate, and one means the fifth carbon of one sugar. This is sugar molecule. One phosphate, one carbon, that is the fifth carbon of one sugar molecule through phosphate is linked to the another sugar molecule on third number of position. Means first position base is present, fifth carbon phosphate is present in one sugar molecule. In another sugar molecule, what is happening? This phosphate is actually phosphodiester linkage. So fifth carbon of one sugar bonds through phosphate to third carbon of another sugar, and in this sugar molecule again fifth position one phosphate is there which will bond to the third carbon of another sugar. This manner chain is formed. Okay, so this chain formation takes place and the backbone is ready, base projecting out from the chain. Okay, now we discussed about the bases. Now suppose one strand of DNA is formed like this. This is the basic strand. This is primary structure of DNA. Now just like proteins, nucleic acids also have secondary structure. What secondary structure is there? Now I had told you sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, alternately they are arranged and bases are projecting out. Suppose adenine in this sugar, guanine in this, cytosine in this, and thymine in this. Then again repeated. Through each sugar there is one base projecting out. This is primary structure of DNA. Okay. Now another template or the complementary strands of DNA is also prepared, and the structure of DNA is double helical. Means two strands which are complementary to each other are prepared. That means what? If I make another strand, so this is secondary structure of DNA. That one strand is the main primary strand and this is the secondary strand giving rise to secondary structure, which is double helical structure, in which again the structure will be sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar. Now this strand which is formed complementary to it has complementary bases. What if it is adenine here? So A always pairs with T and G always pairs with C. Suppose if A is here, so this sugar will only be having T here. It cannot have any other base. If there is G, so this sugar which is in front of it will have only C. Okay, and these nitrogenous bases are bonded to each other by hydrogen bonds, So it will be A is bonded to T by double bond, G is bonded to C by triple bond. So A and T will have double bond between them, G and C will have triple bond. That is why these two strands remain together with each other. Okay. So this is about the structure of DNA. Same is the structure of RNA. RNA is single stranded. RNA will not form complementary strand like DNA. It is single stranded. Sometimes RNA may fold to appear like secondary structure, but actually that is not the secondary structure, that is folding of the same chain. Okay. So in RNA also it will be there. In case of RNA, A will pair with U because thymine is replaced by uracil, and G will bond with C. Okay. So this is about the structure of nucleic acids. Function of nucleic acid I have explained you. RNA are involved in protein synthesis. DNA is associated with genetic information carrier. RNA will be involved in the protein synthesis process. Now the last 1 minute I will take more. That is about a small note is given in the book about DNA fingerprinting. So just like fingerprints of each individual are different, DNA of each individual is also unique. So that process at reading the codes on DNA to identify a particular person is known as DNA fingerprinting, because it is like fingerprinting, that fingerprints are unique, same way DNA sequence coding is also unique. So that finds application in various fields nowadays. In forensic science also it is used. In case to determine paternity also nowadays it is used, and also to study the evolutionary history. So these are applications of DNA fingerprinting. Okay, so this is all about this chapter.